We have old men and women who will go to the west to liberate it.
So there's no shortage of volunteers, no shortage of patriotism and revolutionary zeal. But as to exactly when, how, and even if they intend to advance on the capital, that's another question. The anti-Gaddafi forces say their first task is to defend the east of the country, what they call Free Libya. Taking the fight to the capital would be the next step.
We have a force that can protect Benghazi. The force may use heavy trucks to transport tanks to go to Tripoli and pass through Sirte on the way because it still supports the regime. The power we have is enough. The ammunition, supplies and fuel are also enough. We don't have a problem. But a tour of this airfield paints a less optimistic picture of what the rebels have at their disposal. Rusting Soviet-era fighter planes that haven't left the tarmac in years. All part of Gaddafi's strategy to prevent the army from ever threatening his rule.
The army was dismantled years ago. The regime is concentrating only on security units.
The victory they're celebrating is incomplete as long as Muammar Gaddafi remains in control of cities in the west. And most Libyans fear he will not be defeated without more bloodshed. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera in eastern Libya.
Well, we can now speak via translator to someone in the town of Nalut, and we're going to call him Adel because we obviously want to protect his identity. It's the western town currently in the hands of Gaddafi's opponents. Thank you very much indeed for being with us, sir. Can you tell us what's happening there now?
Yes. What is happening now is that the security forces... نعم أسمعك تفضل أستاذ. Last night, before sunset, about 25 armed cars tried to enter into the vicinity of the town, Malut, and controlled one of the entrances. We had to pull back. Where we were standing or taking guards of the entrance of the town and helping journalists and other medical aid as well as food aid and supplies into the city. And we heard the news that the tanks and other armed vehicles, that was not true at the time. It was not a very large size force.
So can you tell us who is behind this force? I mean, these are paramilitaries or are they army people? Do you have an idea of who these forces are?
Yes, they are from the Libyan armed forces. When they came to the city of Wazin, on their way to controlling the entryway to the city, they were shouting slogans in favor of Gaddafi. And the fact there were only 25 cars, there were no tanks or any other heavily armed vehicles. We will gain back control over that area very shortly.
So is there fighting going on at the moment?
No, there isn't any fighting going on at the moment. It is very quiet there at the moment, but everybody's bracing themselves for another confrontation.
So what kind of level of forces do you have at your disposal?
قوات لكم نعم لا قواتكم الثوار الثوار
الو
Yes, أستاذ عادل الثوار Yeah, we have, at this time, I cannot really tell you what sort of armament we have, but there is a lot of people who are armed and they are very enthusiastic and willing to sacrifice their lives. And I won't be able to give you details about this operation that we are bracing ourselves for to get to the entrance of the town again and capture it back, but you will hear about it in the news very soon.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Adel, for giving us that information from near Nalut there. So just to recap, an attack with 25 armed cars, apparently, to try to capture the entrance of the town. And this resident saying that the forces that they've gathered, the opposition forces, are trying to gather themselves to retake that position. Sketchy details at this stage, but at least no fighting at the moment. But apparently that could be on the cards shortly. Well, there have been reports of skirmishes between people fleeing Libya and border guards manning the Libyan-Tunisian border. Security forces have been overwhelmed by the number of people trying to cross into Tunisia. Thousands of Libyan and foreign nationals are relying on aid being sent from the international community. Some have been there for almost a week. Well, James Bays joins us from Ras Ajdir at the Tunisian-Libyan border, where unrest is being reported. James, bring us up to date with what's happening there.
Scenes of absolute chaos here, Lauren. I'm watching someone being carried out of the crowd now. Looks like they're dehydrated and perhaps have fainted. There are people in the crowd who aren't able to take the pressure now after some 4 or 5 days that they've been waiting the other side of the border, on the Libyan side of the border. They are there in very large numbers, pressed together, a pack of people. We don't know how many. The Tunisians don't know how many. The international authorities here don't know how many. Now, we know that these people have been making every effort they can to get into Tunisia. Some have been climbing the wall and jumping over the wall and trying to make their way in. The Tunisian army is here, as is the Tunisian police, as are some local residents. And we've seen both the army and local residents trying to beat some of the people coming from Libya back. The majority of the people coming from Libya are Egyptian workers. We spoke to one who tried to flee first from Tripoli airport, saw there was no way of getting into the airport, then made the long and difficult journey here and has been stuck here for some 4 days, unable to get through this border. It's been a problem that's been growing in recent days, but I think the system is now breaking down. The international community deeply concerned. One UN official described this now as an emergency.
OK, James, thanks very much indeed for that update. Yemen's president has lashed out at Israel and the US, accusing them of orchestrating the opposition protests against him and other Arab leaders. A leading Yemeni cleric, Abdul Majid al-Zindani, has joined the protesters in the capital, calling for the president's removal. Thousands of people have taken to the streets of Sana'a again. Government forces have been trying to block protesters from entering the capital.
There is a media control room in Tel Aviv, which is the cause of all these problems sweeping the Arab world, and the protesters are just mimicking them. These events are managed by the White House. We hear statements by President Obama asking the Egyptians to do this, then telling the Tunisians to do that. This is none of your business, Mr. President. You are the President of the United States, not the Arab world.
Let's speak to our correspondent Hashim Mahabara, who joins us on the phone from Sana'a. So, Hashim, talk to us about the significance of this development.
Well, the decision of Sheikh Abdul Majid al-Zindani to join the anti-government protesters is significant.